The beginning is going to be me talking about what actually is going on when you have plantar fasciitis pain. So I'm going to talk about what is not happening with it, aka the stuff that the first page of Google, first page of YouTube really likes to talk about. They like to say the bottom of your foot is just inflamed, and it's kind of like as simple as that. No one knows why, no one knows how or what that really looks like, but they kind of just tell you that's what the deal is. I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. So let's actually start with this, and hopefully you guys can see this all right, but there is plantar fasciitis, emphasis on the itis, and then there is plantar fasciosis. Itis and osis are two completely different things. Those are both medical terms. Itis is going to mean inflammation. Osis is going to mean tissue death. Tissue meaning musculature, muscle tissue. And I realize now you guys can't see that too well, but I'm just going to roll with it for now. But anyway, these are two very different things. And the funny thing about plantar fasciitis, as we know it, is that it's kind of a misdiagnosis, unintentionally, but it comes from a misunderstanding. So again, we talk about how it's an itis, as in an inflammation. That's not actually the case. There may be a little bit of inflammation, but to be honest, you have plantar fasciosis, because that's what I had, that's what everyone has, because the solution is going to be just about the same. It just depends what avenue it takes for you to get there. So anyway, that is kind of the basis. Again, links are even in the intro, like I haven't even gotten into the headers yet, and I already have a couple links out to an article that I wrote about that topic and another thing. So anyway, I talk about what you can expect from most health professionals. I understand that this is not something that a lot of people take well. People seem to be very protective of like doctors, health professionals, whatever. When I say these things, I am critical of them, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of just talking about what they're doing and why they're doing it. It's not really meant to like slight anybody. It's kind of just giving my take on why it doesn't work. It doesn't serve people. And for anyone wondering, I went to a couple different doctors during my time struggling. Neither were any help. They actually, all they did, which is what I talk about in here, is try to treat my symptoms. So, they tried to put me in things like orthotics. They tried to say, take anti-inflammatory pills. Walking boot, I think, was suggested to me when I talked about how severe the pain was. Various things. So basically, I have a lot of those talked about in here and why they do not work. So to me, that's a very big thing to understand, because I am giving you the anecdotal evidence of what worked and why. Health professionals are really, the majority of the time, trying to just keep you as a patient. It just is what it is. It's good for their business, so be it. What would be good for my business is you solving your problem and you and I building good rapport. I want to actually help you solve it so that you come back and say, wow, I didn't realize I could get rid of it on my own. And it actually didn't take the things that I thought it would take. I don't have to take medicine, etc. So that's an important section. What this document can do for you, I kind of just talk about stuff that I've already covered here. Reduce training stress is the next one. This is kind of another given, and honestly, I'm just telling you this to play it safe and to not make you go into anything over the top. You know to reduce training stress, obviously, because you're already in pain. You really can't push it. Like I said before, I couldn't even walk very well, let alone if I wanted to run. I did try to ease back into running eventually, but it still took me a while. So anyway, I think those are less important, but read through them anyway. It's all good context. So the next one is the RICE protocol. This is another one that you are going to get from your health professionals. I think everyone has heard of RICE. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. These are made by a doctor named Dr. Gabe Merkin back in the day. I believe it was actually from the 70s. I could be wrong on that. And he has since recanted that advice. What that basically means is he took it back. This is something he popularized when he was in medical school and he was writing his own book on recovery, and he coined the term. And you'll notice actually that a lot of people do things like this because it's good to have a catchy term for things that people can understand. So RICE, it's very memorable. It makes sense to us. I can remember the 4 words based off of the 4 letters. It's nice and easy. So the problem with this though is, like I said, it wasn't based on a whole lot. So he ended up recanting that statement. I have done research and written on that. That is another article that is linked in here. But I basically go point by point about why this is not going to help you. Doctors are going to tell you that you need to do the RICE protocol. Honestly, is it the worst thing ever? It's not the worst, but it's not really helping you. I can tell you that. I would probably say ice specifically. This is the least helpful / actually harmful. Ice is not something that is going to help an injury of any kind, including plantar fasciitis. I talk about this with ankle sprains as well. Icing does not actually help you. I would argue ice is detrimental. I would argue that it slows the healing process, even hinders it. So I basically talk about that in here. I'm kind of holding myself back on like elaborating much more. But anyway, next one is orthotics, inserts, insoles, whatever you call them. Okay, I have tried a bunch of these. So the ones that I think it was the first doctor I went to, he recommended that I get orthotics called Superfeet. Superfeet are kind of, I'm not going to say higher end, maybe like mid-level, because they're not customized. So they're probably upper end of like the orthotics you find in retail stores. I link them anyway in here in case people actually want to try them or just see what they are. But I wore those for a little while. They're kind of just like rigid. They're really strong inserts for your shoes. So those were the first ones he gave me. I did wear them. I tried them. I mean, like I said, they don't get you anywhere because they're a Band-Aid. So I did these. I also, if you've read my stuff, you probably know that I wore Birkenstocks for a long time. I had a very good time wearing them in terms of pain management. However, I talk about in here, these things are not going to get you to the next point. Like, you're not going to heal. You're basically going day by day on survival mode. Like, you put a Band-Aid over it, but it's not healing. Okay, so very big point there. Okay, footwear. This is the next section. Footwear is, I'm gonna give away a little part of this. It's the whole problem. It's basically the cause. You basically have plantar fasciitis because of footwear. I'm not going to go too in depth because you've likely already read some of my stuff anyway if you're here, and this is an important section. But the footwear that we grow up wearing is detrimental. It has several negative features, one in particular that's very bad, and I give you alternatives. Again, you've likely read about these, but I give you real alternatives in here. I give you direct links in here, so you can go right there. They are affiliate links. So that is that section. It's crucial. I mean, the footwear section is like unavoidable. If you want to get rid of plantar fasciitis for good, you cannot ignore footwear. Next is stretching. I talk a little bit about what can be done with stretching. I'm personally not a big stretcher myself, but I found a couple things that help quite a bit. Something I pulled from Dr. Ray McClanahan, who is a renowned podiatrist. He is, to be honest, kind of a hero in this little niche when it comes to footwear and foot ailments. He has helped quite a few people. I'm a very big fan of his work. I always support him. So anyway, I talk about some stretches that are from him that I've learned from him that I've realized are helpful because I had never done them before. And once I did, I noticed a difference.